Well, Liz Truss came in, of course, pledging to get rid of orthodoxies and was the choice of Conservative Party members of the Conservative grassroots. And if you want to be radical and abandon orthodoxies, then you can expect to fight against the establishment, against the sort of hysterical tone that we've seen time and time again from a lot of TV news, mainstream media, and of course people who seem to spend their entire lives whinging on Twitter. It's fair to say that some Conservative MPs haven't given Liz Truss a fair chance to implement her agenda. Many of them, of course, never wanted her as party leader or prime minister and backed Rishi Sunak. And now you've got a ridiculous situation where even scrapping the ban on new grammar schools, for instance, we hear there's a potentially a block from the unelected House of Lords on that rebel Tory MPs could team up with Labour in blocking another key plank of the Truss campaign for fracking. Indeed, when some have actually looked at the parliamentary numbers, it seems that Liz Truss can't actually get much of her agenda through at all. Nigel Farage commenting that the sheer number of Conservative MPs who are so against the Truss tax cuts just shows all you need to know about the modern Tory party. Indeed, it looks increasingly likely to me that the only way Liz Truss could actually implement her policy agenda would be by calling a general election and winning it. Indeed, it was the only path I could see for Boris Johnson to survive as Prime Minister and Conservative leader. He didn't do it. He didn't go for another election. He didn't put it to voters, and instead he got ousted. Something that looks like it could happen to Liz Truss. Much has been made, of course, about the budget, and as I say, I think some of the TV news coverage has just been hysterical, as it is on so many different issues nowadays. But when you look at public opinion on taxation, there is significant public support for cutting taxes. There's significant public support for much of what was on that mini budget. But despite all of that, you've now got a situation where it does look like Liz Truss could be set for just a huge U-turn, that officials in Downing Street are working on a U-turn to Liz Truss's tax plans. And I guess the question is, if Truss is willing to U-turn on abandoning the Treasury orthodoxies that she talks about, abandoning really the first major plan she's put forward as Prime Minister, then what does she actually believe in? Is she going to be bullied and knocked around by establishment types who don't agree with her approach and don't want to see the government take a radical agenda? One thing I would say is that when it comes to cutting spending, there are plenty of things where significant savings could be made. One looks at HS2, for instance, now forecast to have a budget perhaps over £100 billion. The overseas foreign aid budget has been cut, but it's still running about 10 billion a year, which I think, frankly, is obscene. So is Truss going to go ahead and listen to these unnamed top officials? I guess these are unelected civil servants. Is she going to rip up her plan, and with it, I suspect, much of her credibility in the eyes of voters and Conservative members who backed her to do things differently and implement the agenda she spoke about during the leadership campaign? Is she going to back down? Is she going to U-turn? Or is she going to show some leadership and fight for her agenda? As I said, she's certainly not being helped by a large number of her own MPs. And I increasingly think, actually, as I said, as you saw with Boris Johnson, that if she doesn't call a general election, fight it to assert her authority and try and win that general election, then she's likely to be ousted as leader anyway. Let me know what you make of all of that in the comments below, guys. Do you want to see Truss U-turn on her plan or not? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, as ever, cheers for watching.